We are in day 16 of the Donald Trump criminal trial in Manhattan. And in many ways, this is the day that everybody's been waiting for. Michael Cohen taking the stand. Now, today on day 16, it was just direct testimony of Michael Cohen, but from all accounts, and we have multiple sources in the courtroom. Also, multiple reporters have corroborated our sources in the courtroom, which is that Michael Cohen handled himself just about as good as he could have today. It went just as well as it could have gone on direct, is what I am hearing, that Michael Cohen was calm, he was poised, he was detailed, he was methodical. He was very careful as well in being very specific with facts. He was self deprecating and acknowledged things that he did that were maybe driven by ego or mistakes that he made. And the prosecutors, Karen, did such an amazing job here. Every time Cohen said anything, they had backup. They had a text message. They had a message from Melania. They had an email. They had a phone log. They had something that would go exactly to the minute to what Cohen was talking about and saying, and even messages that were to the bodyguard, Keith Schiller of Donald Trump, back and forth and explaining that those were messages he was having actually with Trump and phone calls he was having from Trump. So here's our daily scorecard right here. Trump trial day 16. There was only one show in town on Trump trial day 16, and that was Michael Cohen's testimony. And here's the thing, Karen, I'm close friends with Michael Cohen. I co-host a show with Michael Cohen called Political Beatdown. His other show, Mea Culpa, is on the Midas Touch Network. So the Michael Cohen that I know is perfectly consistent with the Michael Cohen that everybody saw today. The Michael Cohen I know is someone who talks about his family, the love of his daughter, the love of his son, the love of his wife, who he's been married to for about 30 years. Frankly, more than I've heard like any man like talk about it. Cohen drives his daughter wherever, to appointments, to here and there. He'll always tell me about all of their hobbies and all of their things. The Cohen I know is a family man. It's someone who's made mistakes in the past, who's made mea culpa based on the mistakes that he's made. But when everyone was saying to me, oh, he's going to be so unhinged and tell him this and tell him that and tell him to chill. And I said, just relax. Rather than building on narratives, why don't you watch an episode of Political Beatdown? Like for the past 4 weeks, for example, I saw I'd see the New York Post write these stories about, his Cohen statements of it, and ABC wrote a story about what Cohen's been saying. But I'm like, are you watching these shows? Because if you watch Political Beatdown with me and Michael Cohen, he's not talking about the trial. Michael Cohen's not talking about these things. Michael Cohen, we specifically talk about other issues and other things. And Michael Cohen is not this parody that they create. I mean, that may be how he behaved in 2015, 2016, 2017. But that's not just simply not the Michael Cohen that if you did a modicum of research, you would see how Michael Cohen, I think, was going to present. But look, I don't want to get ahead of myself. This was just direct examination, right? The real show is going to be on cross-examination, which people expect to take many days of Donald Trump's lawyers grilling Michael Cohen. But by all accounts, today, Michael Cohen was exceptional. People said that they were surprised at just how good he was on the stand. And again, to my point, he's testified before Congress multiple times, but he's probably testified before Congress and in proceedings more than almost any human being has. As we think about Donald Trump whining about, oh, the courtroom is so freezing, the courtroom is so this, Michael Cohen's been subpoenaed. Involuntarily, he's got to show up at these places. And it's difficult when you're under those circumstances. But by all accounts, Karen, Michael Cohen presented well, and from what I heard too, you had Trump arrive with his entourage, with Alina Habba and MAGA Republican senators like J.D. Vance and Tommy Tuberville, and they were all kind of like laughing and making light of it. But from what I've heard, these people, including Trump and his legal team, looked absolutely deflated. They looked speechless as they were leaving court. But again, just direct exam. This is like, in terms of the Cohen testimony, we're only through the first quarter. And as we always say in everything, you can't judge a game by the first quarter. But we're in the first quarter, so we can give analysis about what went down today. Karen Friedman Agnifilo, you were the former #2 in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. At times you served as the acting district attorney. You've prepped many, many witnesses as a district attorney, working in that office. You know how difficult it is to prep witnesses, and you never know what a key witness is going to do on the stand. You've worked for that office for nearly 30 years before going into private practice. So what do you make of all of this, Karen? How would you characterize what happened today?
So yeah, look, I wasn't in court, but by all accounts, everybody is reporting from inside of court that Michael Cohen is doing really well, and that the DA's office is being very methodical. The prosecutor who is doing his testimony is Susan Hoffinger. She is a former defense attorney. She's a former prosecutor from many years ago, but she spent most of her career as a defense attorney here in New York. And she's just a phenomenal trial attorney. She was the lead attorney also on the Trump org 17 count tax conviction from November of 2022. And by all accounts, she has her witness, Michael Cohen, well prepped. And what does it mean to prep a witness? Prepping a witness is not, you don't tell them what to say. And in fact, you're very careful not to tell them what to say as a prosecutor, because the only thing you tell them that you want them to say is the truth. And so don't lie about anything. Don't lie about how many times we've met, that we've talked, that we've, talked about things, because obviously all that stuff comes up. And so, we've had you, if you don't prep your witness for questions like that, they panic and they'll be like, oh, no, I never spoke to the prosecutor, which is not true. And then all of a sudden you've now lied under oath. So, you prep them by that kind of stuff. You prep them by, sometimes I used to say, you're prepping yourself, because I want to hear what the facts are from you. And so I need to know what questions to ask you. So prep is just as much about the prosecutor as it is about the witness, and learning exactly what they have to say, especially in a long case like this. There's so much evidence. When I say long, I mean they have a long, at least 10-year history, Trump and Cohen. And so there's a lot of information that Cohen has and that he could be asked about or talked about. And this crime, this 34 count indictment took place over the course of more than a year. Don't forget the payments were spread out over the course of a year. And so, again, a lot goes into this isn't like a robbery in an alleyway where it happens in a few seconds. And so the entire testimony is just about a few seconds. That prep is much shorter. This is about a decade-long relationship that has lots and lots of elements to it. And so as the prosecutor, I need to know every detail as much as I need to explain to you how it's going to happen. So that's what prepping a witness entails. Let's go over all the facts. Let's talk about I'm going to ask you all these questions about your criminal history and your guilty plea, and all of that kind of stuff, and how it's going to come out. And you also talk to them about cross-examination, and you tell them, don't be evasive. Don't be argumentative, answer the questions, all that kind of stuff. And so it takes time to prep somebody for trial. And that's what I'm sure you're going to hear about that during cross, is they're going to ask them about the prep. And so I'm not surprised, though, that Susan Hoffinger had her witness prepped quite well. He kept it under control. Whatever anger he has towards Donald Trump apparently hasn't really come out yet. His frustration with, the fact that Donald Trump has said some pretty negative things about him. Again, he's kept it to the facts and not made it emotional so far. So he's done a really, really good job so far, by all accounts, from inside the courtroom. I love that sketch, actually. I feel like it captures all of them so well, including the judge.
I was just about to say, Karen, I want that
Yeah.
blown up and on one of my
Yeah.
walls.
I mean, the sketch artists are really good in this trial, and they've really captured the essence of everybody quite well. And I think that's, it's like it's not exactly, obviously the people aren't standing like that, but they try to capture, they take artistic license and try to capture what everybody's faces and moods and kind of what their, what the tone is. And I just, since I know all the people in there, I don't know Michael Cohen, but I've obviously seen him. I think it's really does a really good job capturing everybody. But anyway, back to the trial. I think the other thing the prosecution's done is a really good job at all this pre-corroboration that they did by introducing records, phone records, emails, paperwork, and photos and whatever else they have. They made sure that all of that stuff that went into evidence already, and they put it into evidence, so you don't have to interrupt Michael Cohen by putting it into evidence. It's already in evidence. And so as he says stuff, they're like, okay, I'm going to show you what's already in evidence as People's Exhibit 4. What is this? Oh, is this the text message with Melania that you were just talking about when she text messaged you and said Donald Trump wanted to talk to you? Great. Or, oh, is this the message between you and Alan Weisselberg that you were just talking about? Here it is. And so it's all coming into view for the it's all coming into view for the jury, of all of these things that were just sort of put into evidence. They didn't quite know where it fit in. These puzzle pieces are all beautifully coming back in. So now they are seeing all of these things for a second time. They're hearing all of this evidence for a second time. And now they have the context of what it is and why it matters. And when you say you were at the Oval Office in February, and here's the calendar entry, does that coincide, with your recollection? All that kind of stuff. It is beautifully corroborated. And the prosecution just did a great job here where, look, Michael Cohen came in. He is a flawed person. I've had many cooperators in my prosecutorial career, some that have committed horrendous crimes, rapes and murders and others, but that was the only way to get the bad guy. Not that this isn't a bad guy, but the ringleader, the mastermind, the gang leader, the mob boss, whoever it is. Sometimes you have to make a deal with people who have colorful backgrounds that aren't necessarily perfect. I used to have the same conversation with every one of them. And some of them would feel would have an extremely hard time. They'd feel like, are you judging me? Because I would have to go through their criminal record with them, every single thing. And they'd be like, are you judging me? And it was hard for them. They felt shame trying to talk about the things they did when they were part of that gang or that group or that organization. And, every one of them had been redeemed. Almost every one of them had some kind of redemption story. And, as I said to all of them, don't be defined by your worst day. People are imperfect, people can change, and people can redeem themselves. And by all accounts, Michael Cohen's redemption story is coming out in living color. And it feels, according to people in the courtroom, it feels authentic. It feels like it's real. It feels emotionally palpable that it's real. And juries are the biggest bullshit detectors there are. I have seen jurors, they cut through all of the noise, they cut through the gamesmanship, they cut through the gloss and the trickery that sometimes lawyers engage in, and the objection, this and that, they cut through it all, and they will assess you. And if he's coming across as authentic and his redemption story is believable, that's going to be absolutely everything. And by all accounts, that's what people are saying has happened. So that's how it's coming in. He's only maybe 2/3 of the way done. They still have another, probably, I'd say he might even only be halfway done. They have a lot more to do on him. They're not even up to, chronologically, they're not even up to the falsification of the business records yet in 2017. And then they're going to go back and do the double direct. In other words, they're going to go back and they're going to ask him questions. And I zero inside information. This is just how prosecutors do things. They do this direct exam where they go through everything, and then they go back and they kind of reinforce their highlighted their points, their main points. And I think what they're going to go through, and they're going to, the main points they're going to go through in this case, I would think, are the key meetings that he had with Donald Trump that shows that Donald Trump caused these false business records to be entered. And that's the key that I've been really, I really think people need to start to focus on. Is they keep saying, well, how would Donald Trump know? How would he know what his accountant would, his low level accountant would the drop down menu would say attorney's fees when it's not attorney's fees, and no one's linked him to the false writing on the business records. Yeah, he signed the checks, but who, someone else wrote the check. That's just his signature, and people are making excuses for him. And of course, Donald Trump walks out of court every day and with his stack of printed, papers that his aide gives him of all his articles. And he likes to say, oh, this person says no crime. This person says no crime. This person says no crime. Well, guess what, Ben? The only person who gets to say whether or not a crime occurred, it's not me. It's not you. It's not JD Vance. It's not whoever are these other people are that are coming in, that he apparently is saying to people, where are all my supporters? So they're finally starting to come and show up, but none of his family is there. The only person who gets to say whether or not a crime was committed is that jury that's sitting there. They're the ones who will determine whether a crime was committed, in this case, beyond a reasonable doubt. So, look, it's day one. There's a lot. We have a long way to go. He's the rest of direct, but really Cross is going to be critical in how he handles it and how he comes across. And but apparently, it's going quite well.
Well, think about this. The defense strategy, if you even want to say one exists, is that nothing happened at all. That what really happened is there's some massive conspiracy with every one of the witnesses that the prosecution's putting on to falsify all of the text messages, emails, phone records. If there was a phone call, it was a butt dial. It was a pocket dial. There was no real conversation there. This one's lying. That one's lying. And the only person who's telling the truth about all of this is, don't believe the records, don't believe the emails, don't believe the text messages, don't believe the checks, don't believe the testimony. Believe the guy who's not talking. Believe the guy in Donald Trump who's quite literally falling asleep in front of the jury yet again today. So when you have Michael Cohen, oh, and by the way, in the opening statement, Trump's lawyers made it out like Cohen is the worst human being alive. Like, there is no one worse than Michael Cohen, according to the defense in their opening. He lies about everything. Everything is untrue. So you set those expectations, right, Karen? So when Cohen actually shows up, and Cohen doesn't just kind of exceed expectations, but blows the expectations away and go, wait a minute. This seems like a pretty normal guy who screwed up in life for a little bit, who's now on his mea culpa, who's telling the truth, and everything he says has corroboration behind it. I think that the impact of that is so much more than if the defense just took a tactical and surgical approach to this, which they absolutely did not here. And again, I'm getting a ton of inquiries right now, and I'm not going on any media network tonight. That's other than the Midas Touch Network. So that's one of my promises that I'm making to the Midas Touch Network and the Legal AFers here, because people want to know, because I'm close friends with Michael Cohen, like what I think about Michael Cohen. And this is the Michael Cohen I know. This is my close friend, Michael Cohen, who is in his mea culpa phase of life right now, who recognizes that in the past he did things that were wrong, who is out there speaking the truth, who's always been telling the truth, who's always had this corroboration, who is intelligent, who's compassionate, a family man, as I mentioned at the outset. He's someone who I could candidly say speaks more about his love of his family and his wife and his two kids than like I've heard like any adult like ever talk to me about. He talks to me about, his daughter's hobbies, and he always looks out for her best interest. He talks about how beautiful his wife is, how much he loves. This is a family man who screwed up, and I think the jury's just seeing that person. And I think those who watch the Midas Touch, who watch the Laugh, who watch Political Beatdown, who watch Mea Culpa, y'all shouldn't be all that surprised. I mean, for a moment, y'all may have been a bit nervous because you've been seeing all this media stuff about Cohen. Oh, Cohen this, Cohen that. So you may have been like, oh, I don't know, like what's going to happen. People would say, hey, Ben, tell him to chill. I said, he is chill. What are you talking? Have you been watching the episodes? He's actually been chill, and he's been, he's been like this for a very long time. And his story too, Karen, that he's the son of a living Holocaust survivor, the importance of our democracy to him as well. I mean, there are just some facts that are very compelling about Michael Cohen, and he's always been, a good, I would say, a great friend with me, and I can attest to his character and all of my dealings with him. Some moments as well, like Katie Fang talking about as Michael Cohen testifies against his former boss, Donald Trump just sits a few feet away, his eyes appearing to be closed. Harry Littman was in the courtroom. Trump seems to be out. Susan Necklace sleeping. His lawyer, Susan Necklace, seems to be concerned about it. Mueller, she wrote account. She was there today. Trump's head is now fully resting on his right shoulder. He's out like a light. Somebody else talked about how his head often rests downward towards his right shoulder, and that he's falling asleep over and over again. And a lot of this, Karen, during compelling testimony, as Cohen talks about how he met Donald Trump, Don Jr. introduced them in 2007. Donald Trump said, I want you to work with me. Cohen talked about all of the deals he negotiated or renegotiated invoices for Donald Trump. He talks about how this catch and kill scheme developed. He talks about how Donald Trump was really nervous about the Stormy Daniels story getting out there. Trump saying it would really hurt him with women voters, that men would think it's cool, but women voters would absolutely hate him for it. Cohen saying, well, what do you want me to do? The campaign was telling Donald Trump to tell Cohen, look, just pay for it. We'll deal with it after the fact. Just make the payment. The campaign wants you to make it. And that was after they tried to drag this out and not pay Stormy Daniels. But Stormy's lawyer, Keith Davidson, was saying, all right, we're going to go public with this now because you're violating the hush money agreement or the settlement agreement. We're going to go public with it. So then Cohen goes to Trump like, what do you want me to do? Weisselberg's not making the payment. You have Pecker not making the payment because you stiffed him. What do you want to do? And then Trump said to Cohen, according to Cohen's testimony, you make the payment, we'll deal with it. The campaign just says, get rid of it right now. You deal with it. And even while that's going on, for Trump to have like his eyes closed at moments, I mean, just very odd, very strange behavior. And just in my view, just what an odd defense here to put on that none of this is real, that none of the messages, none of the phone logs, none of it's, none of it's really happening. Don't believe your own eyes. And I don't know, that may work on right-wing propaganda TV, but a jury who's seeing these messages, who's seeing all of it, I don't know, it would seem to me that it would be offensive to them.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's shocking to me that that they're doing this whole, it didn't happen. The only defense here that I think is viable is maybe a crime occurred, but I had nothing to do with it. They did it on their own. Cohen did it to try to get a place in the White House and curry favor and whatever. Like, that's the only defense. But to sit here and say none of it happened, it's just that's the thing that the jury is not going to believe, I think, because that just strains all credulity, because a crime absolutely occurred. But the funny thing is, because he says it, all his spokespeople and all the right-wing media, they just parrot exactly what he says. They all come out and say the same thing. And then what he does is he says, look what they're saying. They're all saying it too. No, they're just hearing what you say, and it's like an echo chamber. It's just this unbelievable thing. But I agree with you. I think the jury's going to really struggle with that as a defense, or as a, because of course a crime occurred. This is like the shadiest thing I've ever seen in my life. This is just a complete shady business deal. This is like a shell corporation with fake names, was set up, to pay off a porn star, and then the money was structured so that it would, grossed up so that you pay, like, make it look like income and pay taxes, and then you structure it so that it doesn't look like a 1-for-1, even though it's, there's 130 that goes in and 130 comes out. But I'll pay you back in installments, and I'm going to write on a piece of paper exactly how this thing is going to look, and I'm even going to say we're going to gross up the wages, so that if there's any doubt in what I'm doing, I'm going to have the word grossed up right here, right? Like it's like they absolutely spelled it out. And the thing about Michael Cohen, and the reason I think it's so powerful, his testimony, is the way it works when a prosecutor does a case is they talk to the person first, and then they go out and they look for corroboration. It's not the other way around. They wouldn't know to look for what certain things are and what certain things mean, and what calendar entries mean, or text message, entries, or none of that means anything without the testimony. And so they hear the story that Michael Cohen gives, and then they go out and everything they found corroborates his story. That's powerful. That's really powerful that they have all of that. So, and then meanwhile, you've got Cohen saying today that Trump was like, it doesn't matter if Melania finds out. How long will I be? How long? I won't be single for long, or something like that. Like,
Yeah, I think
it's
Trump
just
said, "How long will I be on the market?" It's not going to
like
use that
gross,
exact term.
gross. But yes, I get the point, and that's just the contrast between that and the family man that you describe of Michael Cohen. He's just such a repulsive human being. He really is. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's really, I think I mean, look, I wish I was the person who's always positive and always optimistic. I'm trying to be more like that. So I'm always like, okay, but let's see how tomorrow goes. I'm cautious. I'm a cautious optimist, and I'm guarded. But today went as well as as anyone could have ever expected. So
Look, that's all we need to do, right? Is share the data. Today was a good day from the prosecution standpoint. We'll see what tomorrow holds. We need to remind everybody that this is like the equivalent of the first quarter in a 4-quarter basketball game or whatever. And so you can't just judge the end of the game by the first quarter when it comes to the testimony of Michael Cohen. As you mentioned, the prosecutor's still going to have significant more ground to cover tomorrow. And there is a kind of a stamina thing as well. I mean, humans get tired going on the stand, and then after multiple days of testimony, then you'll have cross-examination take place, which seems like it's likely to go into next week as well. But we'll be here every step of the way covering this, the good, the bad, the ugly, but just the facts, just the evidence, and letting you decide for yourself. And sometimes it takes 30 minutes for you and I to go through in a full breakdown of everything that's happening. But it's important that we give the data and not just sound bites. And I think that's why Legal AF and the Midas Touch Network has become the #1 most watched destination for coverage of the Donald Trump criminal trial. Not just that, but we are the #1 YouTube channel in the United States of America right now across all genres, beating the NBA YouTube channel during playoffs, the Vogue YouTube channel during the Met Gala, the Apple YouTube channel during a product release. And that's thanks to everybody watching this. We need facts. We just need the evidence, and other media is not giving that to us. So we're in this together, finding this evidence, gathering it, sharing it together, and we're in this together. And it's really thanks to all of you. We're so grateful for your support. So please, if you can, hit subscribe on our YouTube channel. It's free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You may think you're subscribed to the YouTube channel because you get a lot of our videos, but you may not be subscribed. So check it out, hit subscribe, tell others about our YouTube channel, tell others, family members, friends, coworkers, colleagues, neighbors, whoever, about our coverage here so we can get the facts and the evidence and the data out to them. I think that's so important. I want to remind everybody on a scheduling note, the Midas Touch podcast with me and my brothers goes live tonight, as it always does at this time, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. So tonight, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Turn on the live episode of the Midas Touch podcast. It'll be great to see you then. My mom's going to be making a special appearance. It's her birthday today, so happy birthday to my mom. She'll make a guest appearance on the Brother podcast. So excited for y'all to meet her if you haven't met our mom. So excited for that. I want to remind everybody as well of patreon.com/MidasTouch, patreon.com/Midas Touch. We don't have outside investors. With all of the statistics I shared with you, being the most watched YouTube channel, no outside investors. It's thanks to you. So one of the ways you could help our independent journalism is through patreon.com/Midas Touch. And we also just started a patreon.com/LegalAF as well, separate Patreons, patreon.com/Midas Touch, patreon.com/LegalAF. So I'll see everybody tonight with my brothers, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Karen, final words.
I'm actually distracted by the fact that it's so cute that you have your mother coming. I love that. Happy birthday, Mom. And this is a big week for you, Ben. So lots going on. And I'm just watching tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a big deal too. So hopefully we have, I think, almost 30,000 people with us live right now. Stay tuned. Tomorrow we'll be back and we'll have a lot to say because a lot is going on. And tomorrow is a huge day. This whole week is a huge week. And I predict Cohen goes into the following week.
I agree with you. I want to remind everybody as well that usually about every 90 minutes or so, we upload a new breaking news video on our main YouTube feed. And in just 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes, we're about to have our breaking news update on everything that went down today as well in the Cohen testimony. So check that out. I paired that, went live, and then just switch over right now and take a look and just wait for it to populate on the regular YouTube feed. And then excited to share that hot take with you that we did. Thank you all for watching. Keep checking back in. Make sure you subscribe. And Karen and I will see you live tomorrow morning at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. A little earlier for me out here in the West Coast, but we'll see you live in the morning. Thanks for watching. Shout out to the Midas Mighty. Shout out to the Legal AFers. Thank you all so much.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the Midas Touch newsletter at MidasTouch.com/newsletter.